Laura Lee, tuning into your spirit with my 5-minute spirit reboot. I have a special treat for you if you happen to be down on your hands and knees and crying, praying out loud. This is the show for you. I have my special guest author with me, The Gift of Shift. Discover the key within to unlock your best life. I'd like to welcome Ann Papayoti.
Hi, Laura. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. So, Anne, I read that you've endured some brutal blows in life. You've lost a child, you had a child born with epilepsy, neurological disorders, you've had chronic illness, you lost a foster child due to unforeseen circumstances. It seems like you've been hit all rounds. I'm sure it's the
Yes.
basis for the book. Can you explain?
So, The Gift of Shift, I co authored with Tracey MacDonald, a colleague, and it's really about the power of perspective and changing how you experience life because we all have those brutal blows in life. Maybe our stories are different, but
Mhm.
there's something that just pulls us under and makes us hold our breath, waiting to figure out where to go and what to do. And so each of these stories share with the reader to help them then reveal their own story and recognize the strength they had to pull through something or to find out how they're still stuck in a story and holding themselves back in life.
That's key, isn't it? Because sometimes they don't even realize they're still stuck in that story.
Exactly. And I think it's all about reflecting and taking the time to reflect.
Mhm.
I know for me, after each blow in the beginning, when these first started happening to me, I would go under for a while, but then I would surface and then I would just keep going. And I didn't take time to stop and reflect and figure out how I arrived there and the disconnect and incongruence literally with my soul. And so
Mhm.
that's how this book is designed. So people will stop and reflect.
And
Yeah.
that leads me to my next question. What advice do you have for someone out there right now who's just been hit with a brutal blow? Let's say a job loss, a chronic illness
Yes.
diagnosis. I have had a couple of those come across my calls recently, or a loss of a loved one. That happens a lot
Yes.
on our show, obviously. So, what would you say?
I would say, first of all,
Mhm.
acknowledge the pain, acknowledge where you're at. Grief, I believe, is underrated. There's
Mhm.
power in going through the grieving process and allowing yourself the time and space for that. Process implies movement. So you arrive somewhere else, but it's all different for each of us. And when you have nothing else, what I learned was to hold on to hope when you can't think you can go any further. But I think we have to be with our pain, acknowledge it, look back a bit, understand it, look within, then look ahead.
You
Yeah.
mentioned about a tool for someone to get out of it. What if they don't have any tools? Do you have
Okay.
a suggestion for seeing the light when they can't?
Absolutely. And the premise of positive psychology is not to deny the bad, it's to focus on the good. And especially for someone who's lost someone to death, it's to remember their life in a beautiful way instead of focusing on the loss of them and the death and what's missing now, grieving that for sure, but moving towards focusing on the good. So I use visuals and I think of a rose. It has the thorny stem, the beautiful blossoms at the top. They're both there.
Mhm.
We get to choose where we're going to focus our gaze. And I learned to focus on the blossom, but not to deny the thorny stem at the same time.
What's the big takeaway?
I would say to really notice your life. So that requires that stopping, that pausing. I call it floating because I use a lot of metaphors with water, but to stop and float, you can hear, when you're underwater, you can hear your breath and
Mhm.
you can hear your heartbeat. So you
Mhm.
can reconnect to really who you are. And I call it really doing soul CPR, right? So
Mm.
you can get back in touch, and when you're floating, you're visual and you see options and you just get back in touch with who you are.
Thank you for that soul CPR wisdom. I like that. The book
Go
is
ahead.
called The Gift of Shift. with Ann Papayoti and along with Tracey MacDonald. Where can they find the book?
The book's available from all major online retailers, including Amazon, Barnes and Noble.
And if you like this episode, subscribe to find more. And I'm always available to receive your calls. Go to radiomediumlauralee.com and sign up. We look forward to hearing from you.